Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am the Down Under Maker. How is everybody this morning? Quick audio check, please, guys. Can you make sure that everything is working? It seems to be on my screen, but let's just be sure. I can see we've got Projects in Dad's Garage, we've got Jeff, we've got John, we've got Gergman, we've got RJ Repo, Penguin is here, Raj is here, Greenbeard's here. Awesome. Yeah, just waiting for confirmation that we do have, and it's all working. Thanks, RJ. All right, now I can get rid of that screen because it drives me insane and be ready for you guys. So, what are we doing? It's been a couple of weeks because of illness and weather and all sorts of craziness going on. Last week we were all battened down because it was a tropical cyclone. It could have crossed the coast anywhere from a couple of hundred miles north of here through to the city, and fortunately it blew through north of the city and blew to the east of us, but we got lots of thunderstorms and stuff, and I didn't want to have all my streaming gear turned on in case of power spikes and all that sort of stuff. And as usual, it's 3 a.m. my time, so please excuse me if I'm diving for my coffee every so often. It's early. So what are we doing today? Today we're going to talk about some new gear that I tested a while back and show you guys. This has all been hidden in plain sight. Guys, you have actually seen this in my streams a bunch of times, you just didn't know it. The Pad5 V2, which is currently on my desk, is, yeah, it's been bolted to the front of my Voron for the last 4, maybe 5 months. And because it was in this little shroud, who would know what screen it was? So it has been the new one. And also, about 6 or 7 months ago, I did a stream about an abandoned project called the K Hub, which is a USB hub. And well, back then it was a USB and CAN bus hub for plugging into your controller and then plugging in CAN bus and everything else into the rest of your machine. That has since gone through a whole new round of testing and revision, and we now have a different version that I had on my V0, and I actually carried it across stream and nobody noticed. So yeah, so I'm going to actually dismantle this because the case that they printed when they sent it to me isn't very good, and my case is a little better. I'm working on a better shell for it because one of my gripes when I do my testing is a lot of the designs for the shells are not complete. And the annoying part about that is they're not designing to make them printable. That's what I mean by they're not complete. Like, the unit will fit in them, but they're not printable. There's unsupported overhangs, there's all sorts of craziness going on. And I believe that when you're selling a product like this, the shell should be printable. You should be able to download the step file or download the CAD file, the STL file, chuck it into your slicer, hit print, and it should just be printable. If that means that you have to have built-in supports to do that, then that's what they should have. And I'm currently working on a couple of new betas, which I can't talk about, very strict NDAs on these ones. And this company that, again, failed to put any built-in supports onto it, and I'm going to town and making sure that my thoughts are very well known, and so are some of the other testers for this particular company. Now, I test for a bunch of companies, so when I say this company, it's generic this company. When you see a product and I tell you a company name, then you know it's that company. I test for lots of companies, guys, so when I say I'm testing for a product, could be for anybody. So let's have a look. Now, this, up until late last night, was bolted to the front of my Voron, and I won't confuse things at the moment by turning cameras around because I've been having a few bugs, but it's got clipper on it. It's actually a full Raspberry Pi CM5 bolted to the back of it, and we'll have a look at that at the moment. That's why you can see it's got clipper. That's why you can see it's got an error. You're also going to see me be a giant hypocrite, and I'll explain why as we go through this. But I am a very staunch believer, do not power your Raspberry Pi style devices via the GPIO ports. it bypasses a whole bunch of power conditioning and protection circuitry, which is normally provided by the actual power port. Don't do that. Always go through the protection circuits, always go through the smoothers, always go through all that protection. It's there for a reason. Smarter people than you and I have designed this circuitry to make sure that these devices are as robust as possible. Why would you skip that? Manufacturers skipping that are doing you a disservice. Always power your devices via their correct power input port, not the GPIO. With that being said, let's take this cover off and I'll show you why I'm being a hypocrite. So this is a very hacked up, modified version of somebody else's design. And I'm going to show you why I have to be a hypocrite. When I get prototype devices, they're almost always hand built. And what that means is sometimes when they're hand built, parts fall off. That's the charge port. That's the Type-C charge port, and OTG, basically the programming port for the SBC that's on board here. SBC, single board computer, the Raspberry Pi. When they're hand built, the technicians who put them together don't always do an amazing job. And in this case, they forgot to solder. Let's go to that one. You can see that there's little soldering tabs there, the sticky uppy bits. They are supposed to be soldered. There we go, that's a much better view. They are supposed to be soldered to the board. On this one, they weren't. It was held on only by the very small connectivity pins. And that meant that it fell off. My Raspberry Pi CM5, as a result, currently has locked-in syndrome. I can connect to it over Wi-Fi. I can use the touchscreen. I can do everything, but I can't reflash it. I can't currently upload a new copy of Raspbian to the device. What that means is there's a bug with the current version of Raspbian on here, because it was a very early version of Raspbian, and it has a delay somewhere in the system, which means that it takes about 3 minutes for it to get to Clipper. Don't know why. I haven't had time to troubleshoot it fully, but I know that if I was to reflash this with the latest version of Mainsail, it would just work and I would get rid of that bug, but I can't because there's no way to actually program the eMMC on a CM5. Let's turn this over. Now, what you're going to be seeing here is a prototype. There has been some changes between this unit and going to market, and that's a good thing. It meant that the company listened, Bigtreetech, and they took on board the feedback that we were giving them. Come on. That one's loose. There we go. With my paw so you can see. Now, as you can see, there's status lights everywhere on this thing, which is awesome. It means you know what's going on and it gives you a lot of ability to troubleshoot. When I first got it and I was playing with it, I tried to power it up using a USB PD device, basically a 30-watt Apple charger. It's not a USB PD compliant, unfortunately, but that's not the end of the world. I have made notes that going forward, it would be a really good thing if we could have these USB PD supported. What that would mean is you could put a PD trigger device onto your 24-volt power and then go through that, and the USB PD actually auto-negotiates, auto-controls everything, and would feed it the right voltage. It would mean you could also potentially run these on higher voltages, up to 24, bypassing a lot of the hassle of having an extra power supply. Not the end of the world, but it was one of those things. Now, the other thing that you guys need to know is that this device has the USB ports and the HDMI ports in different spots compared to the production version, because part of the feedback we gave was The ports all sticking out the side sucks. Now, I've just realized that I've lost chat off of my screen, so give me a sec while I bring it up. It seems to be everybody saying that they hear me and stuff, so I'm going to go with that. Oh, morning, Caleb. And Cody's here as well. And Hybrid's here. Okay, so what we've got going on here, we have our, I'm going to stick with the side camera because it's, there we go. I can get it nice and close and you guys can see. What have we got going on? We have got the LAN port, CAN bus port, USB type, USB 2, also USB 2, USB 3, USB 3, USB 3, and these are control buttons. Unlike previous versions of Raspberry Pi, the CM5 and the Pi5 both have power buttons. So you can actually hit that power button and tell it to go to sleep or shut down. So that's amazing. It means that you no longer have all that hassle of going into main cell, clicking the power button, clicking on shutdown and all that stuff. You can hit that button and it will trigger the shutdown process for you. That's the HDMI port, and that's a DSI port. The HDMI port has changed. The HDMI has gone to full size, and I'll bring up a picture of that in a minute so everybody can see it. Now, here is a very specific header. It's a 4-pin fan header that's part of a standard for CM5 style and CM4 style boards, which connects to the fan. It has a tacho and a speed pin, as well as positive and negative power. That means that the CM5 itself can control the power of the fan and ramp it up and down as necessary. This is silent. Let me bring this right up to my neck where my microphone is. It's absolutely silent. And the board sits at about 50 C, something like that. It's never been a thermal issue. So let's move on to the elephant in the room and why I made that caveat about me being a hypocrite. Here, that's my botch job to connect to the GPIO power to allow me to run the unit minus the Type-C port. That's where the Type-C port is supposed to be. As you can see, when I realized it was starting to fail on me, I used a little bit of hot glue to hold it in place. But yeah, it eventually let go, and that's why I'm currently sitting here with locked-in syndrome. So this is my prototype. Let's see if I can find an image of the board that is going to work for our purposes. That one will do. There we go. One of our big things was having all of the ports coming out of the sides made the unit way too bulky and way too hard to hide the cables. And Bigtreetech listened. We pushed back pretty hard on it, and we said that it sucks. There is still some niggles I have with this. I'll be clear and plain with it. They also rearranged where some of the ports were in terms of USB 2 and USB 3. You can work that out when you get it. But USB 3 is for high-speed connectivity. You don't need it for connecting to your MCU boards. It's for high-speed connectivity. So in principle, you could actually use this for other things. You could use it for home automation controllers, for Home Assistant or something. You could actually mount it to your wall in a nice pretty case and have it to run your smart home stuff. You could also integrate it tightly into a small handheld device and turn it into a gaming system running Linux. Build your own Stream Deck. It's one of those things where this device, we wanted to make it more than just for printers. We wanted to make it a more universal device, so it could be used for other things. As you can see, the HDMI port went from a micro HDMI to a full size. how often people are going to use that and the necessity of that port, open to debate. But again, if you're going over to using this device for things other than 3D printing, it makes sense. The DSI port is also a CSI port on the CM5 modules. So that's why that port is there and marked as camera interface. So you can plug your camera into it. Now, the difference between Raspberry Pi 3 and 4 and 5 is the size of the ribbon cables. The old Raspberry Pi 3 and that series, they use a wider cable, the FPC, the flat, whatever it is, the ribbons. So that's actually the narrow version that you're more familiar with on the Raspberry Pi 4. So don't get caught. HDMI micro should be banned. No, it shouldn't. HDMI micro makes perfect sense for these devices, but only if you need it. So, yeah. When it comes to Raspberry Pi designed to run a fan on the GPIO, not for the CM4 and CM5, RJ. It's not. It's John Doe, it's DSI. I'm just reading through the chat that's going on. So yeah, it's all here. It's all as compact as we can. And the most important part is, let's go back to this. It's all here. It's all side camera fill. Haven't done this for a few weeks, guys, and I'm a bit rusty. There. The CAN bus is built in. Now, I had a chat with Esoterical about this, and while I haven't actually used CAN bus on this directly, having this unit off, part of the reason for that is I want to make some changes under my Voron, which we might do next week if all the stars align. If you want to run CAN bus from this screen, you've got your CAN bus high and low on this port. You also need to have a common ground. So you're going to have to connect from a negative GPIO on the GPIO port through to a common negative on the 24-volt power supply or the 48-volt power supply. In most cases, it will be the 24-volt power supply to connect it to the CAN bus system. Otherwise, you're not going to have all of the circuitry in place. CAN bus high and low by themselves are just the data. They're not going to actually create the full circuit, so you do need a common negative. Now, let's go through the part I don't like about these boards. The mounting. The mounting isn't great. Let me show you why. Here's the mounting points, 1, 2, 3, 4. They are in the same plane in X and in Y as all of your connectivity hardware. So what that means is, especially if we go to here, all of these ports stick up in the same alignment as the mounting points. That's a no, as far as I'm concerned. But the powers that be decided that they wanted to stick with this design and not modify any further. That means you're kind of stuck. You have to mount the board either by going up and around and not being able to use the ports in a particular plane, or you have to mount it outside and then have little bridges in. So mounting it like this, that one, and then having little bridges out the side of your mounts down to the supports. So having something like this and then a little sticky outy bit onto each side to reach those mounting points. So because these ports all point upwards, that's the only way you're going to be able to access these ports. I don't like it. It makes the screen effectively bulkier because of that decision. I would have preferred them to all be in a line here, in line with this big gap, and then move all the status LEDs to the outside. Things like the micro SD port, not a lot you can do. But yeah, it's one of those things where trade-offs were made, and that's the decision they went with. My other thoughts were pretty much, it's good enough. There's some shortcomings as a result of the decisions they made, but it works. I'm told that on the production version, this ribbon has all been tidied up. It sticks out way too far on these prototypes. But basically what happens is they build the screen, they fold this over and join behind the board, and it all comes into here through this little gap and onto there. In fact, it's got so cool, it's now shut itself down. Oh, it's warmed itself back up again. There we go. It's actually gone into, I'm not doing much mode, so it's going to power the fan on and off as it needs to. That's how cool it's running. It thinks it doesn't need the fan very often. So we've got what they describe as the CAN port and the display port. You can't run the inbuilt display at the same time as the DSI port is my understanding. And which screen you're running and being able to turn the programming on and off is controlled by these dip switches. I would have loved to have shown you the process for flashing this device. It's really, really simple using the Raspberry Pi boot software and then Raspberry Pi Imager, but it's not something I can do without the OTG port in place. That's where it's going to solder onto. That brings me to something else I can talk to you about though. So let's go back to here, to me. Hi. Everybody knows that 3D printing is a little bit all over the place in terms of product launches and things like that. But I've spotted a niche in the community where lots of people are scared of soldering and that sort of stuff. I'm not. I don't mind it. I really quite like it. We all know one of our favorite creators, Armor 3D. He's awesome at building his printers, but he hates soldering. He absolutely hates it. It's the point where I tease him a little bit about using flux, and he, I'm not sure if he resents that or if he doesn't mind the humor, but I'm setting up to be able to show you guys how to fix boards. These boards are getting quite expensive and quite complicated, but not insurmountably so. In terms of complexity, we can do board repair if we have a little bit more gear and a little bit of patience. It's not particularly difficult, and I've currently got a hot air station and a very sweet piece of gear in terms of a new soldering station coming in. More on that when it turns up, and I'll do unboxings for you guys so you can see what I'm doing. But it's going to mean that I will be able to do micro soldering to the level of being able to get my pair of tweezers, find the component that needs replacing. Let's go to that one again, now remembering where things are. Grab it with the tweezers, blast it with some hot air, and pull that MOSFET off the board. That's simple. And then replace it with a fixed equivalent. Where this initially started was, I posted about 3, maybe 4 months ago. I'd tried to work with a new EBB36 board, plugged it in, and the capacitor went pop straight out of the box. Nothing wrong with the wiring. It was simply the capacitor failed. It's one of those things where Bigtreetech wouldn't have known. It just popped. It was probably just a manufacturing issue with that one component. I was able to replace it. Did a messy job because it didn't have quite the right gear, but the board worked, and that kind of was the initial kernel of me wanting to go here. And then going forward, I was like, I'm seeing a niche in the community. Builds are going to be all over the place in terms of new products launching for a while. Index is coming. That should be what? I believe they're shipping in about 3 weeks from now. So probably 4 weeks, 5 weeks, depending on shipping, before we start putting Index onto the Core 1 behind me. And the soldering gear should start arriving in the next 2 weeks. So who knows? The order of things we're going to be doing things in is, we'll see how it goes. So that's a basic introduction to the Pad5. It's not that different to the Pad4 and the Pad7, sorry, the Pad5 and the Pad7 previous generation, except it's got all of the gear on it to support CM5. CM5, like the Pi5, is a 5 amp device. If you're trying to power this with less than 5 amps and less than 5.1 volts, you're going to have a tough time. But yeah, I'm just having a quick look at chat now. The metal shield for the card fell off my DZ01. I had sold it back on and epoxy it back. They need some extra reinforcement or to use a different card type. They kind of, that flips up. Don't know what you're talking about, John. Just give me a second to refresh my brain. Oh, do you mean the bit that covers the micro SD port? Is that what you mean, John? In which case, contact them, let them know, and feed it back. Lots of pictures. They're really, really receptive. If you want to send me the pictures, I can take it to the developers and make sure that they're aware of the situation. That board is not designed for consumers. And if it's going to their business customers and it's having that sort of an issue, they're going to want to know about it. So by all means, send me through the details. That does remind me, though, you've given me a quick prompt. This is a micro SD port, but it's only compatible with cards, with controllers that don't have eMMC. If you've got eMMC on a Raspberry Pi, you can't boot it off micro SD. There's actually a fusible link in there that's set up that once it has eMMC on board, you have to do crazy things to the components on the back of the board to enable SD, and you lose your eMMC. eMMC, for those who don't know and are confused by all the acronyms, is basically a faster version of what a micro SD does. And yeah, if you can't have both, you can't win everything. So while it does support CM5, CM4, and the Bigtreetech in-house range, only if they don't have eMMC on board. And the little dip switches basically allow you to tell the board what type of memory is in use and how to get there. Let's have a quick look at chat. Am I getting a pub preheater? If you mean a PC board preheater, quite possibly. As funds build up. I've spent an awful lot of money getting myself set up to do what I'm doing, and yeah, it's going to take a while to save for that. It's better than SD memory, but worse than SSD. Exactly right. I did actually ask why we didn't get an NVMe port on here, or at least a PCIe breakout, and nobody would answer my question. So, embedded multimedia card, exactly right, Raj. Nick's making comments that people are lolling at, so I'm just going to read. I was just saying hi to everybody. I was doing an exclamation mark fart. No, Nick, I'm not going to enable that for you, basically because I've tried, and without paying for lots and lots of software, it's not going to happen. Just quickly reading through. Yep, it looks like we're all over here. And yes, RJ, flux. Flux is important. Get yourself some syringes. Put flux in syringes. Flux in syringes makes it a lot easier to handle. So that, in a basic nutshell, is the Pad5 V2. I am going to shut that down now. Actually, is it that one? I can't remember which button it is. Yes, it is that one. It's now shutting itself down. And it's off. How convenient is that? Let's put that out of the way for now. Now, let's talk about the K-hub. Which screws was it? Oh, that's right. This is the Phillips head one. I've just grabbed a handful of small screwdrivers because sorting them out is easier over here while I'm talking to you guys. This came to me months ago. I think it was just before the Pad5. And they're actually being sold as a duo, which is kind of a smart marketing thing. With the Pad5, its connectivity is good, but it's not very convenient in terms of where it's located. It's all bolted to the front of your printer, either at the top or the front. Now you need a Pad5 V2 to work as a Home Assistant dashboard panel. We've asked. Whether it's going to happen or not, can't promise you, but we did ask. Let's pop this out. Now, I'm in bare feet, so I'm going to grab that screw before I stand on it. There we go. Now, let's jump to here. There we go. I have, of course, a prototype version. The production version is on black PCB. And there's a couple of minor changes happened to the unit. So that, as you're seeing on the screen, black PCB, big fat Wago at one end, whole bunch of USB ports at the other, and a Type-C port in the middle. That's the important stuff. But let's have a look at it up close. Now, like I said, I have a green prototype, but function is identical. When I got the original prototype, the JST port, which connects to the cooling fan, was actually sticking out the side. And that's why there's this big gaping hole here in the side of the chassis. I can't really see it on that one. That extra hole here. That was originally even bigger on the black version, and that was to allow the JST port to be on 90 degrees and sticking out the side. And then you had to tuck the cable back in and reroute it. We hated that. We said no. And they did listen. What I did to prove the point, though, was I actually unsoldered the original JST port, soldered it in my own. Not the greatest soldering job because the soldering tip I used was way too big. And I mounted this red port on it to make it really obvious when I was taking the photographs, so that the fan wiring was actually all on the inside of it. It makes far more sense as far as I'm concerned. Now, having a modular fan does make sense in a few regards. It means that potentially, rather than powering the fan off here, you could have it controlled by your MCU. Boards like the Octopus, with the 5-volt fan outs, you could actually potentially control it from there. How are my ankle biters? We could well get a visit from Micro Maker this morning. He was a bit unsettled overnight, so he may just turn up. I think Bruce being an Aussie bloke is a joke stereotype. Everyone is Bruce and Sheila or something. Sort of, maybe, yeah. I did post in the meme section on my Discord a video by a dude called Chris Franklin, which very nicely sums up the Aussie stereotype. He's a bloke, he's a yobbo, and his best mate's name is Robbo. It was actually a charting song that this stand-up comedian released. He made it quite high in the charts here in Australia. It's a piss take, and it was pretty good. Now, let's get back to this. 24-volt in, people. This is a game changer in terms of ease of USB powering. It means that you can feed this 24 volts. There's a full converter here, which breaks it down to the 5 volts for USB. There's a whole bunch of interchange circuitry, which allows it to either be powered off the Type-C port via USB from your original USB host. Don't do that. That's for, that's just silly. But it can work for testing and things like that. And then for, I think these are Type-C, USB 3 ports. Just let me check the specs. There was a whole bunch of change that happened at the end of let's go over to here. Let's go over to the spec sheets. There's a few changes made right at the very end, and I don't remember if they ended up going to USB 3 across all the ports or not. Like I said, I've had this for a while and it's just been sitting there doing its thing quietly behind the scenes. Now, you'll notice that when I bring this up, they now have attached a fan cover to the top of the fan. Didn't come with my prototype unit, not the end of the world. So, the cover is available as a download. All you get is the board, as far as I know, and the fan and its grill and some screws. Now, what that means is you can get what they call the extrusion mount, which is the one I'm using. That one, with the wings, with the little holes at each end so you can screw it to extrusions. Or there's one which has built-in DIN rail mounts, so you can just click it to the DIN rails on the inside of your printer and mount it that way. Better is subjective. It depends how it fits. Is it going to work reliably? This thing's been bulletproof for me. WaveShare is a lot more expensive for a reason. The gear that goes into WaveShare is designed for industrial commercial use. I can't comment on how much better or worse it's going to be because I haven't had a chance to check one. If I was buying one myself, I would have to very heavily look at the price difference and compare the two. I think from memory, the WaveShare USB equivalent is about 70 Australian dollars, whereas this is about 25, 26. So you would have to weigh up how much noise suppression you need and that sort of stuff, and whether you actually need type USB 3 ports across the board. Now we have. I don't know what Raj is going on about. My brain is not quite fully awake yet. So let's go back to what's going on here. The case very nicely has all this these stenciled into it. So 24-volt input, 5-volt output, and USB, making it very clear that this is a USB hub. It's not just a convenient 5-volt power. And you, like it says here, you can do 5-volt in here, but it's basically this is the input for your USB hub. This is the connection to the USB host, and this is the output. Now, each of these ports is powered independently. Let's have a quick look at that here. This is the control for each of the ports. Each of them is powered independently. When you get these kind of ports, often it's all the power is across let's, for ease of convenience of talking about this, let's call this a tower. Each tower is normally powered in parallel. So the positive pins and the negative pins on both of these ports is normally connected together. On this, it's been wired in such a way that each port is powered independently to make the power as smooth as possible. And if one device suddenly has a huge power draw, hopefully it's not going to impact the other device connected to the other port on a particular tower. That's the back of the port. And this is what's called a ground plane. It's basically a large area of circuit trace that's left exposed to allow the heat out. So through the board, there's a whole bunch of connections to pull the power from the other side of the board to this side, and it's basically a heatsink. And that, in combination with the heatsink here and the cooling fan, is what keeps this all under control. This is an inductor. This is the bit that does the hard work in terms of converting the 24 volts down to the 5 volts that it needs. So let's go back to the web page because it's got far better diagrams than I do. That's the production version of the board with the black board, 24 volt or 5 volt input, USB-A output times 4. I asked if we could have some Type-C outs. They said no. I kind of understand why. It's going to lead to some confusion about whether it's USB PD compliance and all the rest of it. Active thermal management is just another way for saying we put a fan on it because we couldn't keep it cool any other way. And some of the traces are finished in gold to make them corrosion resistant. Now, here is a whole bunch of marketing stuff. Yes, these are potential devices you could plug into it. You can power a K-Touch off it quite happily. It only pulls like 560 milliamps. You can plug a Pad5 V2 into it, but not into these ports. It's confusing. If you're plugging a Pad5 V2 into it, it would be into the Type-C port. I've asked for that to be updated, but yet to happen. You could, in principle, send the USB data to the EBB Gen 2 boards, and you can plug in USB cameras. Remembering though, and I put a very, very, very strong remembering though here. The way USB works at this level, unless you get to really high spec USB 3 2x2, is what's called half duplex, that's the right term. It can only send data in one direction at a time. If you start loading up your USB connectivity over a hub to your controller with the camera data going in, it's going to bottleneck all of your data going out to things like your Gen 2 toolhead boards. I thoroughly recommend giving your cameras a whole different USB port to everything else. Do not bottleneck the rest of your system by having a camera connected to a port that's shared. So what I mean by that is most USB host controllers will have 2 USB ports per controller, but the controller itself only has the bandwidth to handle data in one direction at one time. So yeah, don't do that. Put your cameras on its own USB. So in most situations, let's go to here again, that one. These 2 ports on most setups will be shared on one controller, and these 2 ports will be on one controller. If you start plugging a camera into this port, you're automatically hamstringing this port. These 2 ports will be doing their own thing, that's fine. But if you plug a camera into this one and an MCU board into this one, you're running the risk of running out of bandwidth to the MCU connected to this port if your camera is tying up all that bandwidth. Especially as people want higher and higher and higher bandwidth applications and higher resolutions on their cameras. You're asking yourself for trouble. Don't do it. Why make life harder? Think about these things in advance and then you don't have that grief. Just quickly checking chat. Yeah, projects have said that the wave share was about $40 US, so about 70 Australian. Yeah, so that makes sense. Well, it's close to 60 now at least. Rod's here. Hi, Rod. Now, one thing I should bring to your attention, that heatsink is not standard. That heatsink is not part of the regular build. That's the heatsink of a stepper driver that I happen to have in my kit that I wanted to test to see if the chip would work okay without the fan plugged in. When you're doing this type of testing, you do crazy stuff after the testing's complete just to see, because you can. It's not cost you anything. And at the time I was like, I want to see if I can run this without the fan. Don't do it. Did it make it run a heck of a lot cooler with the fan? Yeah. And Martin's here. Hi, Martin. You like the Wago power connector? It makes so much sense. It was either going to be screw down or it was going to be Wago. With the hassle that happens with screw down terminals, if people tin the end of the wires and things like that, why do it to yourself? Wagos can cope with whatever you stuff in them because they're all sprung loaded. So, like I said, the red port, originally it's poked out the side, but when they decided we were going to make a revision, they did the port pointing upwards, and I've done that mod myself. Let's go back to here. Now, I make a very strong point of saying to people, I do not review products I've tested. Will I say to you, would I buy it? Yes. Will I give you a full in-depth review? No. Accountants would call it a self-audit risk. You're basically saying, I did a good job. No, I don't do that. So this is just talking about the power protection reports. There is reverse polarity protection on here. It doesn't mean that you can connect them backwards and just keep going. It just means that it won't blow anything up. There's a couple of diodes in there to protect the system. It's built to last. Basically, they've gone the extra mile and they've designed it to be as reasonably bulletproof as possible. They've gone and gold-plated the heatsink points. Nice. And here we're talking about the mounting options. So this is the chassis that I'm using. It's got the DIN rail mounts. Sorry, the extrusion mounts, and this is the DIN rail version. That basically it's just a slightly modified version of the standard Voron clip. And as I understand it, on the one version, they've now cut the wings off. So you can print it without the extra wings if you want to. Let's quickly go through it, making sure. So if you're powering this off 24 volts, it's got one light. If you're powering it off the USB, it's got a different light. You're never going to see it because it's all inside the box, but it does give you something to test with. Let me see if I can find a cord to show you guys. That should be long enough. There you go, little green light. Only really, like I said, only really useful for troubleshooting because normally it's hidden inside the box and you can't see it. But it's there. And right next to it, there's a blue one for 24 volt power. Is my 24 volt power brick around? I have a 24 volt power brick somewhere, but I can't see it easily to hand. That allows me to do test powering for boards, but yeah, essentially it will give you a blue LED. Everybody knows what a blue LED looks like. 5 volts at 1.5 amps max is the USB output. And it's got a very clear caveat. Let's go back to this. Very clear caveat. The 1.5 amp max across the ports is only when it's connected via 24 volt power. If you're powering this from your Pad5 USB only, it's gonna be limited by the 500 milliamps per port at the Pad5. Bear that in mind. When people are saying, oh, I'm getting weak signal integrity, how many things have you got plugged into your USB ports? If you've got all 4 USB ports in use and you're trying to suck 2 amps out of the USB ports on a Pi 4 or Pi 5, you're maxing it out. Don't do that. More stuff about the protection. Here we go. Oh, they did actually include the heatsink now. It was something I floated. I haven't had a chance to look at this. I've been dealing with so much other stuff, and I've got 4 betas currently going on. So some of this has been put together and knocked together in a rush. I literally cut the wires off the front of my Voron to the Pad5 last night at 9 o'clock, just before bed, so I could get it all prepped for you guys. So we've got the board. It comes with a 30 centimeter cable, which is heaps in most situations. It's going to plug from here to whichever controller you got, whether it's the Raspberry Pi 4 or a CM5 on a Pad5 or something like that. It should be heaps. And if it's not, the cables are cheap and ubiquitous. But make sure you get a USB 3 cable, because that's rated for the 1.5 amps. Cooling fan, what I've got on this one is not quite the production one as far as I know. They made a small change to the specs. Fan guard, heatsink, which they did provide, and a thermal pad. Awesome. It's basically the same as the ones that come with the TMC 2209 drivers. A Bigtreetech sticker, woo, yay, and a whole bunch of screws for putting it all together. But this is the nice part. They did supply a couple of hammerhead nuts for connecting it to 2020 extrusions. Check your shelves for the power supply. Which shelves? Jeff is having a joke with me. I have done a lot of rearranging off camera. So behind this camera, I have now got a huge set of extra shelves set up so that I can either put filament or other stuff in there. It's currently full of Lego, but yeah, we'll get. I need to finish sorting it out. But yeah, I don't know where some of my stuff is because some of it's got put on shelves just to get it off the floor while I do all this changing. Yes, it is, Caleb, a really nice little hub. Half duplex is the USB standards. You'll be very hard pressed to find a cheap USB 3 2x2 hub. They're expensive. The chips are expensive. And for what we need, it's thoroughly unnecessary in most cases. You just need to do a little bit of thinking ahead of time. Just having a look at something. Bear with me. There we go. And then, yeah, that's the full website. Would I buy one? Probably. Am I going to give it a review? No, I'm not. I'm just telling you what it's about, what it's got. And yes, it does confirm up here, it's only USB 2.0. So it's going to be limited to half duplex and 480 megabits per second across the USB-A ports. I don't know what the host hub is capable of. I'm assuming it's also 480 megabit. Yeah, I can't see anything to say it's anything more than that. So that is the original. That is the K hub. Now, why have I got all my tools out? It's because the print quality of the prototype shell was horrible. Partially because, like I said at the beginning, designers at these companies aren't paying a lot of attention to what they're doing. And they design things. Let me go to here. You can't print this unsupported. There's no way. Look, that all would all need to be supported. You can't print it that way because this would all need to be supported, or that would need to be supported. So, I can hear my little guy. If you guys can be patient with me for 2 minutes, I'm just going to go and get him through to Mama, and then he won't be so sad, but that way it means he won't also wake up Minimaker. So I'll be back with you guys in a few moments. I'll put that on mute because you don't want to hear him screaming. Okay, I'm back. Let's have a quick look what chat's been saying. Sorry, Alex. Micromaker woke up and was starting to get whiny, so I had to quickly grab him and take him to Mrs. Maker so that he didn't wake up. The Mini Maker. I expect the same level of treatment next time one of us is sick. Okay, so I am back. Where was I? Oh, yes. Ranting about the fact that designers of this stuff aren't designing the cases very well. So, yeah. Printing this unsupported is impossible, and that's bad. They need to work on a new way of doing things. This could have been designed in a way that makes it printable unsupported. The base is fine. Just print it that way. But the main reason, and I'm going to show you why I'm going to this trouble of printing a new box. That annoys me. This printer that they printed this box on that they sent needs tuning badly. They're a 3D printing company. So just off camera, I'm popping out these screws so they don't lose them. So that's the mounting holes for the DIN rail support if you decided to DIN rail mount it. Did that printer even have a bed? I'm not sure. It appears to have been a satin finish bed. So it's possibly a cryo grip, and they were getting a bit ambitious with how high they set the Z height. So I'm just cleaning out the screw holes. There we go. So pop. And then this goes in on the top, but we need to make sure we put it in the right way around. So when you're putting the fan in, cable needs to go to the Type-C port side. Let's go to the overhead. That's going to make far more sense. There we go. That's a bit more comfortable for everybody. Also doesn't show how badly I need a manicure. So in the production version, don't forget you will also have a little fan grill cover to put on. And I think this is actually self-tapping screws in the supplied pack. But the M3 screws, with a little bit of gusto, do screw in okay. So M3 screws are in, and 1/4 of an ugga-dugga on the metric Steve build system. And now the fan port is polarity sensitive, so make sure you're plugging it in the right way if you're using a brushless fan. That's not quite going to fit because that screw is too long. Like I said, you guys aren't using the same hardware pack as if you buy one of these as I've got. That's like a that's an M316. It only needs an M312. There we go. What's conflicting? Something's not quite aligning right. How trying to make a copy? Dude, where's mine? My JST port's a little bit bent over. There we go. They've modified this case ever so slightly, probably to match some slight refinements on the production board, and it doesn't quite fit nice. There we go, close enough. It's very common for prototype devices to get to be ever so slightly different to the production versions. Usually because we've requested changes that make a lot of sense. Now, why am I putting it in a white case? Because the last twice I've worked on this printer, I've forgotten that I've got stuff plugged into it because it was black and sitting up against a black acrylic panel, and I forgot to unplug things and ended up yanking stuff. Now, somewhere around here, I have printed the lid to go over the top of the Wago port. Can I find it? Nope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily use the lid from the original, and I'll swap it in when I find the lid, which will probably be in 2 years' time, like every other side project that we forget we need to get back to. Now, just like the hinges on the original Voron, it's a filament, there we go, filament pin. So slot that into place. Let's go to that one. And does that need cleaning out? Just a little bit too tight. Yeah. Penguin. When you're finished using your very tiny Torx drivers from Joe, they make excellent reamers for 1.75mm holes. So that now pushes in. And there you go. A little foldy lid to protect the top of the Wago so you can't accidentally knock the clips open. Ta-da! That I really need to print. That's going to bug me. So I will get onto that later today. When you change a part, new part should be gold. So you want me to print it in gold like the website? This is what he's talking about. It looks more like baby poop yellow, but maybe. Do people want me to see it printed in baby poop yellow? Halfway through printing parts for Stealth Changer, we can race to see if this is done before your index. What are people's thoughts? Let's do a poll. Why wouldn't it, there we go. Do polls there now. Start a poll. Start poll. Will it work or will it bomb out? There we go. It looks like it's going. Glow in the dark green. I could do glow in the dark green. Who voted against doing a marathon index stream? Come on. Name and shame yourself in chat. Come on, people, there's a poll running. Cast your votes. We've only got 5 votes so far. There's more than that in stream. Speaking of which, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Only 5 votes. Well, 80% of people who bothered to vote have decided that, 6 votes. You don't have that kind of attention span. Somebody's voting and I'm voting. There we go. It looks like lots of people would like to see a do it all in one go stream. As soon as I get the instruction manual and I've got a decent idea about how long it's going to take to do, then we'll make a decision on that. But there is interest in an all-in-one marathon. It could be fun. It could be laborious. It could be brain melting. You caught me not paying attention. Dude! Well, at least you've got the watch time for me. If nothing else, you've got it running. But there's interest. So I'll keep that in mind. Of the 9 votes, 78% say they wouldn't mind a stream all in one go. I'm going to guess that most creators are going to do it in 2, maybe 3 streams. So probably talking about 8 to 9 hours, I would imagine. Okay. Race to index could be disastrous. It could. But isn't that part of the content? But yeah, I'll keep it in mind. I've got an idea of now what people are thinking. Hi, Jose. What's going on here? Jose, we have been talking about Bigtreetech gear and the trials and tribulations of working with prototypes, and that sometimes designers just do piss poor jobs of designing boxes for stuff. I'm currently having a battle with something that I'm doing testing on at the moment. The designer is, however, taking it on board that they did a poor job, and seeing the changes that myself and a few of the other testers have made, and adopting most of the changes. So hopefully that will mean that a better, more printable product comes out at the end of that one. To watch kids and wife won't let you pay that attention that long. So, with all that being done, let us pivot for a bit and go to this. After about 7 attempts, due to a problem I was having with the Voron, I managed to get a complete one-piece lid. This will go up on printables in the not too distant future as a mod, if I haven't already. Maybe I've already posted it. But there was no current one-piece lid for the Delta Flyer on printables when I looked. So one-piece lid will go up on printables if I haven't already done it. But I had a thunk. We have these magnets and these magnets and these magnets. why aren't we doing something smart with them? The chassis of the Delta Flyer already has magnets in it and parts that are easily accessible and moddable. Why don't we go that one? Why don't we run wires to the bottom of these little magnet cells and positive and negative? That way, we'll probably actually do it on this one because it's closer to the fan. But we could then very nicely cable manage the wire to the magnets and then use the magnets as our contacts, kind of like clicky, and same on the chassis, and then the lid just comes on and off. That would make life much more convenient. So Jose, I will, I'm going to get all that developed over the next few weeks and send it through to Kenrog and Rolahan so that they can see what they think. But I think that could actually be a very nice, convenient mod for the Delta Flyer, so that the fans are, the fan is powered that way, and it's one less cable to deal with on the inside of this thing, because there's quite a nest of wires in the top of a Delta Flyer at this stage. So what do we need to do here? We need to get ourselves a HDMI cable. Got. And that needs to have the HDMI at that side. Now I'm still waiting for my AliExpress delivery of the I'm still waiting for my AliExpress delivery of the adapter, which will allow me to tuck all the wires in properly behind the screen. But that goes there. That is the Type-C cord now. What happened to that one I was using earlier? That one. That's why that was out. That one goes there. Let's go to that one. Not that one, that one. So in the lid, I've put a convenient hole for routing cables through. You've already guys seen this on my previous stream. I modified the lid to be able to accept the screen, and it actually plugs in there nice and securely. There's a little bit of patoing to it because of the fiberglass, but I don't think that actually needs more support. Could I do extra support? Easily enough. There's a couple of hard points here and here already built into it from the way the lid is done. So I could actually put an M3 hole here and an M3 hole here and run something to here. I don't think it needs it at this point. But let's turn this around. That plugs into there. That plugs into there. No. I didn't get this adapter. But the problem is, this bit is the wrong way around. So what actually happens is, if I try and plug it into the screen, it goes that way. It goes that way. It goes to the front, not to the back. So yeah, I failed. I picked the wrong version of the adapter and I'm waiting for the other version to come. So I want the one that goes the other way, so it goes to the back of the screen. And that will then mean that this cable, rather than sticking out the side of the screen like this, we all nicely tucked in behind this way, and it will look a lot prettier. So let's move this out of the way, get rid of those screwdrivers. Move that back over there and tilt it up a bit. I'm going to arrange this all on the desk so you guys can see. So, in principle, that now pops off and plugs into the USB port after our software mod. That plugs into the HDMI port very carefully. Helps if I don't block that overhead camera. And I do have a much shorter HDMI cable coming. For some reason, I can't disable the AI zoom on the Meet 2. It's just not disabling. But that then goes like that. Let's steal that power. And plug that in there. There we go. And let's turn that power on. Something went click. Yep, that's all powering up. Let's give it a moment. Screen has power and we're booting up. Some people will find a way to blow things up. People always find ways to blow things up, Jose. We both know that. But you like the idea of the mod at least, so that's good. And there's Clipper, and we're up. Now, the next step of what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off these little USB, these little fiberglass tags at the top. And I think then my work here on this particular version will be complete. This screen looks sufficiently pretty how I've done it that I don't think it actually needs any more. But some people might decide to do other things, but that's what I'm going to cut off, so that it's all flush with the screen itself. So yeah, what time is it? 4:20 my time. Print-wise, I've had it running. It's been doing pretty good work. It's a meme printer, guys. It prints so small that a lot of the stuff that I do doesn't actually come out particularly. Nothing fits. Unless I'm printing trinkets or funky stuff for the kids, nothing fits. I do need to finally do the cable management sleeve here at some stage, and the only thing that's holding me up at this point is I'm waiting for some black rubber bands. Jose, if you could make one small change if you do any more batches of this printer, can we please have black rubber bands? That would be amazing. That will save us a lot of hassle and a lot of grief, and yeah. But other than that, great printer. It's been lots of fun to work with, but a few little niggly things have been annoying me, and mostly is that I can't fit anything. Almost all of my prints are too big for it. But that's the nature of the beast. So, yeah. Delta Flyer project is all but done apart from the adapters and tidying up the wiring. And I do need to mount the fan. But at this point, I've been running without the fan with no great difficulty, even in really hot Perth temperatures. Having said that, winter has started to hit here really, really hard. After the cyclone blew through, it just got cold and it hasn't warmed back up. So just moving a few things on my side table out of the way. And let's put this back. Now, what I'm going to be doing over the next few weeks. We're going to go back and revisit Box Turtle. I've made a few mods to mine and got it all to the point where I'm quite happy with how reliable it is. I have to put the screen back on the Voron, and I've asked for permission to show you guys an abandoned prototype of some drivers. It's completely abandoned. I won't probably be able to go into specifics about it, but it will mean that I can talk a bit more freely about my printer if I can get permission and show you what's been going on underneath for all this time. I've had to keep some of this stuff off screen because I can talk a little bit, but not enough to make it useful. I want to tidy up what's going on under my Voron because it's got a bit messy under there from all the beta testing. And being able to show you guys and being able to put it up here on this desk and do work on it is going to be advantageous to me long term. And what I would like to be able to do is in a few weeks have Vivid running alongside Box Turtle as an a pool of 8 spools, and then we can have some fun and do some crazy stuff alongside Index, and we can compare 8 spools on Index versus 8 spools on that and see what happens. So that is in the pipeline. Just need to get the guys to agree to it. And what else is going on? Index is coming. I think you guys have seen this before, but I don't remember for sure. A microscope for soldering on. Now, this is a USB compliant device. So if I can find that one will work. No, not my storage mode. That one. I should now be able to go to here. Something's not right. That's not right. That's better. I'm sorry guys, first time I've done this in a while. It knows it's plugged in. There we go. So let's put this underneath and light it up a bit. And there we go. That's my ruler. And if we want to make it much more magnified, we can do that. And why have I got this? This is so we can start doing micro soldering. So basically I'll be able to then reach in. Let's assume this is a soldering iron. There. I can hold the component. I can hold the component in place and the solder. Now, what you're looking at here, that 28 is about 2.5 millimeters tall. So that's the sort of level of micro soldering I'm hoping to be capable of for you guys. You have one of those. They're really cool, and I've been practicing soldering underneath it. So hopefully that will mean that we can do some fun stuff. So let's get rid of that for a second. And So that's some of the stuff we've got going on. If we get to the point where this is good content, people are watching it and that sort of stuff, I have seen a better setup for an overhead magnification and doing this micro soldering. So this was about $50 on AliExpress, 50 Australian dollars. So it wasn't particularly expensive. And if I don't use it for this, the kids will use it for playing with. So it's not a big deal. But the bigger overhead microscope is a couple of hundred Australian dollars, but it's more like an overhead cam, and it means that we can get some really close-up shots, but the camera is actually, here we go, about this high above the bench, and means we've got much more room to play with compared to the microscope here. So it's worth experimenting with, and we can see if that becomes something we want to do. So that's funky. On my screen it's black, but on the overhead view it's blue. Cool. Must be something to do with the way that it's polarized. So rather than drag this stream out, we've done 90 minutes. I've got everything done that I was hoping to get done today. I am going to call it, and I am going to go make myself some breakfast. I'm going to turn that camera away from me so it stops trying to zoom in and out. And I am going to be on Discord a bit later, but I need to go make breakfast. I have been Phil. I have been the Down Under Maker. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all next week. Time for me to hop on out of here. Bye, guys.